Hello everyone! Sana nasa maayos kayong kalagayan at nawa ay naka-ready na kayong matuto dahil sisimulan na natin ang pag-aaral sa Unit 1, Analysis of Concepts. So, ang aming grupo ay magpo-focus sa pagtuturo ng words and concepts. Tapos, itutuloy ng mga other groups yung mga iba namang lessons. So, dito makikita natin na ang words kailangan para makabuo tayo ng mga concepts. Tapos, yung mga concepts na yon, pwede natin pagsama-samahin para magkabuo naman tayo ng knowledge claims. Tapos, yung mga knowledge claims na yon, mula ron, pwede tayong makabuo ng arguments. So, yung knowledge claims and arguments, abangan natin sa mga next reporters. Bale, dun muna tayo sa words and concepts. So, dito tayo sa definition of terms. Mamaya natin i-define yung terms, pero ngayon, yung mga nandito muna sa slide na to. So, ang word ay simplest unit of communication that is used as a sign of a concept. While concept is made up of ideas that subsist in our minds. Remember that word is made up of letters, while concept is made up of ideas. So, doon naman tayo sa next two, particulars and the process of abstraction. Particulars are all the things that exist in the world. So, kahit anong mga nandito sa mundo, di ba? Pinilipino ko lang. Tapos, ang process of abstraction ay using general terms to name a group of particulars. Mas maintindihan natin yan dito sa mga examples natin. So, ayan, makikita natin yung cup of rice. Pero parang lagpas yan sa isang cup. Pero, di ba, hindi naman natin kayang pangalanan lahat ng rice na nandyan kasi napakarami. Yung isang rice doon, yun yung particular. That is why we use the process of abstraction para pwede na lang natin siyang tawagin kung anong kind of rice siya. Baka glutinous rice, long grain white rice, pwede ring Japanese rice, yung gamit sa sushi, ganon. So, gumagamit tayo ng process of abstraction kasi hindi natin kayang pangalanan lahat ng bagay sa mundo. Example din dyan yung seeds ng strawberry, di ba? Napakarami nila. Hindi nga natin mabilang So, paano pa natin pangangalanan, di ba? And yung mga dots sa polka dots. So, ang process of abstraction and yung particulars, dinefine siya ni John Locke. Ito po siya. So, tandaan na lang natin siya kasi marami siyang naambag sa atin. Tapos, di ba sabi ko, i-define natin yung terms. So, ito na. Terms refers to a word or group of words used to express a concept. So, pwede siyang simple or complex term. Madali lang naman siya kasi kapag simple, one word lang, while kapag complex term siya, edi several words. Pero, dapat nasa form siya ng thus, so, and so, ayon kay Bertrand Russell. Ayan. So, dito nga, makikita natin yung definition of terms. Binalik ko lang para i-classify natin sila kung anong klaseng term siya. So, yung word, concept, and particular, di ba? Simple term siya kasi one word lang. Pero yung the process of abstraction, complex term siya kasi made up of several words siya. So, nabanggit ko kanina si Bertrand Russell, mas maintindihan pa natin at mas makikilala siya sa report ng Group 7 sa readings nila. Ayan. So, thank you so much. Gia, you may continue for the next lesson.
So, thank you, Karen. Good day, I am Gia Alvario and I'm going to discuss Module 2 entitled Extension and Intention of Concepts. So, it is said that a concept is analyzed in terms of its extension and intention. Now, what is extension and intention? Extension includes the members of the domain of the concept. The members pertain to the things in which the concept is applied. On the other hand, intention is a set of traits or attributes that all the members must have. Okay, let's take for an example the concept book. What is the extension and intention of this concept? For the extension, comic books, novels, and textbooks are examples of the extension because these words fall under the concept of book. As for the intention, you need to think about the common attributes of the members included in the extension of the term. Now, what do all books have in common? They have pages, covers, authors, and more. So, in order to analyze the intention of the concept, we must pay attention to the single trait or set of traits that the members of the extension must share. Now, let us proceed to the term essential property. It is said that when the intention of a concept becomes very precise, it becomes an essential property. What does it mean? Meaning that if an individual thing does not possess the essential property or that single trait, then it will not be qualified as a member of the extension of the concept. To make it more clear, let us take for an example the concept mammals. So, in order to be qualified as a member of this concept, one must have a specific trait. And what is it? Mammary glands. If an animal doesn't have mammary glands, then it is not considered a mammal. Essentialist in philosophy believes that if there is no essential property held in common by all the members, then the concept cannot be meaningful. However, this essentialist view was challenged by this philosopher named Ludwig Wittgenstein in his book Philosophical Investigations. So, who is Ludwig Wittgenstein? He is an Austrian-born British philosopher, and he is considered by some as the greatest philosopher of the 20th century because of his influence on current philosophical thoughts in topics such as logic, language, and more. He challenged the essentialist view by giving an example about games. So, we are all familiar with games such as board games, card games, and more. Wittgenstein said, "What single trait do all games have in common? Is there always winning and losing? Is there always amusement for the players?" Then he said, "Don't say there must be something in common or they would not be called games, but look and see whether there is anything common to all. For if you look at them, you will not see something in common to all, but similarities, relationships, and a whole series of them at that. To repeat, don't think, but look." Now, what does this mean? With that being said by Wittgenstein, the members of the concept games have no common feature. Some games involve winning and losing, such as volleyball. Others, such as bahay-bahayan, do not. Some games have more than one player, and the others do not. And so on and so forth. Therefore, all games do not have something in common. Instead, Wittgenstein stated that it is a complicated network of similarities, overlapping and crisscrossing, sometimes overall similarities, sometimes similarities of detail. Because if you look at the games on the PowerPoint, you can see that there are similarities between the games. Bahay-bahayan is similar to basketball in a way that they both contain more than one player. Solitaire is also similar to bahay-bahayan because both do not have competition and so on. There are so many games. Wittgenstein cannot think of any better term to call this than family resemblance, because according to him, the various resemblances between members of a family, such as the build, features, color of eyes, etc., overlap and crisscross the same way. That's why the concept of games is a form of a family. Now, Wittgenstein warns us not to assume that there is an essential property held in common by a group of things, of objects, just because they are under a general term. As he stated earlier, don't think, but look. For if you look at it, you will see that most of the concepts are connected by family resemblance rather than by a single essential property. That's it for Module 2. The next reporter would be Mr. Marius Orosa.
Thank you, Gia, for that mind blowing discussion. After all that has been said, philosophers agree that a word takes on a meaning. All of us are familiar with the use of words, especially that words can be used to ask a question or explaining things and stating facts. So let us proceed in Module 3, where we will discuss the meaning of a word up to cardinal rule. So Ludwig Wittgenstein said that the meaning of a word is in its use in the language. Words that we have known so far, when combined, will take on multiple kinds of meaning. For example, please continue listening to our discussion. So I issued an order for the audience to continue listening. Also, from the tone of our voice, that words take on multiple meanings. But how do we determine the meaning of a word? So, in a particular language game, to understand the meaning of a word is to know how it is used or the context of a sentence. When we share meanings, we share this language game, and to share a language game is to share a form of life. For example, the bat. Some of us think that a bat is an animal or an instrument used in baseball. When we apply it to a sentence, it goes like this: I saw a bat in the zoo. So we can now conclude that the bat being referred to here is an animal. Another sentence, he swung his bat like there's no tomorrow. So we can infer here that the bat is a baseball bat used in baseball. So another example is the word row. So the word row can refer to a row of books or row the boat. So the row of books is a noun, and the row the boat is an action. We may also consider the various uses of the word hand. For example, the audience gave Brendan Urie a big hand. So we can conclude here that a big hand can refer to applause. And another example, give a helping hand to the ones in need. So we can refer here that a helping hand means it is to give aid to someone. And moving on, what happens if the same use of a word becomes integrated in multiple language games? This is what we call conventional. A word that is conventional is a word that is widely accepted or the standard use of the term. For example, we understand that the word mother means a female parent. Conventional because the words that are used more or less the same way. But in some cases, the same words may acquire different meanings and uses, and thus it becomes ambiguous. Take this for example. I saw her duck. Duck can refer to an action or a noun, just like in the example. Another thing, the chicken is ready to eat. There are times that a word is used so loosely, thus the word becomes vague. Take this for example. It isn't clear or vague that other things or like that stuff, we don't know what it is being referred to. Since words are used in different statements, it could lead to useless controversies, and people would continue arguing what is the exact meaning of the word used. Now let us discuss about the cardinal rule. It is said that never take part in any discussion or verbal dispute unless you are sure that both of you are using words in the same way. But how do we ensure that the both of us understood the word in the same meaning? We could ask, what do you mean by that? If they could not give the information that would satisfy you, then you know that they do not have a complete understanding of what you mean. That's why in debates, we tend to ask questions so that there would be no misunderstanding in both parties. And that's all for my part. We may now continue the discussion, Karen.
Thank you so much, Marius. So ngayon, sana hindi pa kayo nagsasawa sa akin. Itutuloy ko na ang discussion for classification of concept. So actually, marami pang concept, pero ito yung mga nakahanda nating pag-aralan para sa Philo 1. So, ang una ay empirical concept. Can be observed in the real world, tangible and visible, and also called the middle universe. So, mamaya explain natin yan. Pero ngayon, explain ko muna yung cactus. 'Di ba nakikita natin siya, tapos nahahawakan. Minsan nga nasasaktan pa tayo kapag hinahawakan natin. So, example siya ng empirical concept. Pati yung mouse natin, earphones, gadget natin, lahat yan empirical concept. So, sumunod naman tayo sa theoretical concept. Observable only through the use of very powerful sensory extending devices, such as telescopes and microscopes. So, ang telescopes, ginagamit natin siya para makita yung mga malalayo at napakalaking mga bagay. So, tinitingnan natin doon yung macro universe. Well, sa microscope, di ba nga, micro, maliit, yung mga nandito lang sa atin, yung mga bagay na napakaliit, kaya kailangan din natin ng microscope para makita sila. Tulad ng mga microbes, viruses, gano'n. So, kung meron tayong macro-universe at micro-universe, meron din tayong nasa gitna, which is yung middle universe, which is nakikita natin kahit wala tayong sensory extending devices dahil kita na natin sa mga mata natin, and yun yung mga empirical concept. Ang next naman nating concept ay dispositional concept. They exhibit an observable trait after certain operations are performed. Katulad ng matetest natin kung magnetic ba yung isang paperclip kapag na-attract siya sa magnet. So, ayun, may ginawa tayong operation para malaman natin kung magnetic ba. So, ang magnetic, elasticity, and temperature ay examples ng dispositional concept. Ang next naman natin ay analytic concept. These are the abstract concepts which cannot be found in the world. These are conceptual entities created by our minds. We use this concept in logic, mathematics, and geometry. Tapos, kasama sa konseptong ito yung numbers, infinity, and circles. Tapos, gumagamit tayo ng mga approximation, pedagogical devices to help us understand this abstract concept. Katulad ng, di ba, nag-aral tayo ng parts of circles, yung mga properties niya. So, gumamit tayo ng approximations doon para mas maintindihan natin kung ano bang itsura ng circle, ng sector, di ba? Ayun. Tapos, next naman natin ay evaluative concept. Ito yung our judgments of the worth or value of person, act, behavior, event, or place. So, these are the concepts that we can evaluate kung good or bad, ugliness or beauty, guilty or not guilty. Next naman natin ay fictitious concept. These are purely imaginary and provide source of entertainment. So, ang example ko nga dyan is yung Hotel de Luna, tapos yung mga characters natin sa webtoon na True Beauty. So, yan. So, wala talaga sila dito sa ating mundo. Purely imaginary lang sila. Ang last concept naman natin ay metaphysical concept, referring to an idea, doctrine, or posited reality outside of human sense perception. This might include the study of the nature of the human mind, the definition and meaning of existence, or the nature of space, time, or causality. So, ang example nga dito is yung human mind. Kasi, dito sa metaphysical concept, pinag-aaralan, di ba, yung study of human mind. So, maraming salamat. So, continue mo na, Gia, for the last part of our report. Thank you!
So, thank you again, Karen. So let us proceed to the last part of the module. Sometimes determining the status of the concept is quite difficult. We don't know if it is empirical or not, if it's real or not. Now, in order to make it easier for us to identify the type of concept, we must utilize the method intra and intersubjectivity test. It is a method used to determine the type of the concept, whether it is empirical, fictitious, or abstract. But how will it determine the status of a concept? For example, I have a huge crystal ball. I can touch and see it. However, when I showed it to my friends, they couldn't see and touch it like I do. In this situation, the crystal ball passed the intra-subjectivity test because I can touch and see it. It is tangible to me. But since my friends cannot see the crystal ball, then the crystal ball failed in the inter-subjectivity test. Now, in order for a concept to be considered empirical, then the concept must pass both tests. But if it did not, then it will be considered as fictitious. Let's say I can no longer touch or see the crystal ball whenever I want to, and my friends cannot see it as well. Then it fails the intra and intersubjectivity tests. Therefore, the crystal is now considered as fictitious. Now, this can also be applied to some trans-empirical entities such as our very own tikbalang. Now, some Filipinos may claim that they have seen this creature, but if others did not see the tikbalang whenever they want to, then it fails both tests and it is considered as fictitious. But if they can also see the tikbalang whenever they want to, then it is empirical. Now, there are members of the extension that require sensory extending apparatus, such as the microscopes for microbes and a radio telescope for the black hole. Now, why do we think that these members exist? It's because of the intra and intersubjective consensus. Now, what is it? It is an agreement between scientists about what is or what is not observable. It gives support to theoretical entities. Now, the best example would be Pluto. Diba? The consensus that lasted for so many years claimed that Pluto is a planet, that we have 9 planets in our solar system. But recently, it has been demoted as a dwarf planet because it has been revised by a new consensus between astronomers. Now, this signifies that the nature of empirical claims, their truth, is never certain because it can always change. Now, that's it for Group 1. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you learned something from us. Thank you. Bye.